Okay. We are live. What, episode 3
Yes, episode 3.
of the G Spot. You finally found it. Or welcome back. You keep finding it. Lucky you. Your hands counts. All right. So, as we like to start every episode off with a little bit of a riddle and also answering last week's riddle. So, for those of you that dropped down in the comments the answer for the riddle, we're going to remind you really quick what it was and then give you the answer. So, take it away.
So the old riddle is, I'm not alive, but I can grow. I don't have lungs, but I need air. I'm not afraid, but I can be terrifying. What am I?
And the answer is fire. And so if you guys wrote fire in the comments for last week's video, we'll give you guys a huge shout out for getting that answer correct. And here in the future, we're going to do a kind of an engagement, correct answer, exciting kind of thing. So stay tuned. We got some stuff coming down the pipeline. Don't want to give away too much yet because we're still working on some of the details. However, this week's riddle.
We have a new riddle. I'm not seen, but often heard. I can be a single word. I come from within, not from books on the shelf. What am I?
I like that one. That's fresh. Yeah. And so, guys, again, just whatever you think the answer is, no right or wrong. Well, obviously, there's a right or wrong, but we don't ever judge on you for that, for, taking a guess. And so go ahead, drop your answer down below, and we'll let you know next week on the episode if you got it right. What are we chatting about today?
Well, we've got some current event stuff and some mindset.
Like always. Yeah, absolutely. So, what is the overarching topic today? What are we covering? Not the one we want to, but...
Ginger's got her opinion.
A good opinion. She says, let me be part of this.
I forget what we decided on.
Yeah.
What did we decide on? Shit.
All right, so last week we talked about overcoming fear.
Mm-hmm.
This week we're talking about inner strength.
Okay.
And, because you and I, we talk a lot about movies. We do it on this podcast quite often. We're going to do it again today. But I think what really inspires me personally about movies and why I love watching them is, there's great action. I love monsters. I love all that. But I like the character arcs, right? The hero's journey has been the plot line for movies for forever, for many, many great movies. And the second part of the hero's journey, finding that inner strength, think about it though. They just unlock it from within them, right? And so I think that's a great overarching topic for what we could talk about today is what is that inner strength? How do people unlock it? How do you uncover it? How do you harness it? And ultimately, how do you leverage it?
That's a good topic. So shall we dive into a show with an example?
I'll let you pick the show. Let's go.
Well, since I brought up the one Korean zombie show and you
don't need episode. It's really good. I'm not even on camera. I'm laying back too far. All of Us Are Dead.
Mm-hmm.
Phenomenal take on the zombie apocalypse style. You were right? So it does have the elements of the high school drama, the bully, the nerdy kid, the rich people against, beating up on the poor people, whatever. It's all there. That's just a small piece. And then what I really love about it is its unique take on the virus, right? Why it was created, how it got put into the world. I just think it's really fascinating. I'm on episode 8 now.
Mm-hmm.
And to those character arcs, right? That's a great concept to bring it into. Spoiler alert, we're going to talk about some real characters and some real situations that happen in that show. And so if you have not yet, do intend to watch it, there may be some things that we share here that are going to ruin some of those pieces for you. So just a fair warning. But there's... Which one he's... I'm trying to remember which one he is.
What do you mean?
He's not, because there's 4 main characters, right? There's not just one. But
I'd argue it's more like Z, where there's a whole bunch of different stories going on at the same time.
Yeah. Right. Thank you for adding some more clarity to the communication.
The way the book was, not the movie.
And same thing with You know, if you were to watch Game of Thrones and then go to try to read the books, you'd be like, what's going on? Because each chapter is through the eyes of a certain character.
Yep. That's exactly how World War Z was. Sorry, Brad, I wasn't a fan when you did this, but because of his ego, he wanted to be the star. Where World War Z's like claim to fame with the book was beautifully done, where they're jumping between these different characters and different locations, and each one of them is the star of that story that they're telling at that particular time, and the book is just the collection of how they all fit together.
Yeah.
Which was what I liked about it. It was kind of novel.
Indeed. What I always thought was kind of cool is knowing who wrote it and like knowing the lineage and family line he comes from. But his dad's one of like the most iconic comedy stars and directors, producers of all time. And then you have this guy who's like, I'm going to write a book about a zombie apocalypse. Like the complete opposite genre from where his father goes. Because Mel Brooks is a man, right? Like Mel Brooks, like whatever you say, Spaceballs, like some of those movies that he created back then, pure comedic gold. And then you got his son who's like, I'm going to kill everyone.
Well, that goes to like families, like how you're raised. You either swear it off completely and go the complete opposite direction, or you become just like them, whether they're good habits or bad.
Yeah, it's true. But I think he definitely got the ability to create worlds from his father, right? Like, I mean, you grow up in it, he's probably like, I would think that someone who's a master at that level, like, it's bled into your life. It's part of like everything that you do.
It's second nature, and you don't even realize it. It's why I didn't realize how lucky I was that my dad taught me to think like an engineer.
Yeah.
And make the connections that I make.
He's a little over analytical sometimes, guys, but we're working on it.
Never. I don't know what you're talking about.
No. In reality, you're the absolute balance of me, because I'm like diving head first into the pool before I see if there's water. And you're the guy that's like, hey, there's no water.
There's water, maybe a little bit of water, but what's the temperature of that water?
Yeah.
Even though those puddles don't matter. In the grand scheme of things, what's the temperature?
But to go back to the story, he's the kid whose mom owns the chicken shop, right? I think his unique arc has been probably one of the best ones so far, because he's like this nerdy, geeky kid, but in every situation that has called for someone to step up, be brave, do something, he's at the front of that line.
Yeah.
But meanwhile, before everything broke out, he wasn't a tough guy. He wasn't beating people up. He was just a normal geeky kid, hanging out with other geeky kids, like pretty kind of crazy. So,
well, I think that's intentional for the story, because every geeky, nerdy kid wishes they were the tough guy too. So that's the whole fantasy element, but it does help very well with the character, and that shows itself when in the military as well.
Very true. Yeah.
And then the toughest guy could be the biggest wimp, because they're the toughest guy on the outside.
Yeah. What I've noticed is that they did a really good portrayal of showing, so the bullies in the series, right? They're not afraid of the zombies, but they portray them in an evil way still, regardless. Like, it's really cool how instead of having them be scared or cowards, because it's out of character for them, but having them like maliciously have no regard for human life. And like even the one dude who, you know, spoiler alert, gets infected and becomes that like superhuman thing that they're starting to turn into. Like, he's on a revenge to just kill and destroy anything he can find. And so it's kind of, it took the bully, enhanced his abilities, and now it's just like this menacing thing that's running around that they keep killing. It's killed like 3 times, and he just keeps coming back. Yeah.
Do you think that speaks to true nature of self? You know, because you brought up the example before of like money isn't evil. It just enhances your flaws or whatever. Yeah. Right? So it's kind of like the same thing with the virus, isn't it?
Yeah, so that's the thing. I don't think, like you mentioned, that money is evil. I don't think money is, you can't put a human personification on a inanimate object, right? It's what we use. It's a tool.
Well, as marketers, we can.
We do it well as marketers, but in real life, it doesn't matter. It's not real. Like we put emotion and things into things that shouldn't like necessarily have emotion because it helps with marketing. But what I wanted to say is that like I truly believe, especially serving in the military and being overseas, that evil exists, right? And what the virus is doing a very good job of is just amplifying human nature, like you mentioned. And so, yeah, that the kid who's out there destroying the world, that was always inside of him. And there's even the one scene where he kills his like best friend, the guy who was like the bullying him. And it's like you could see that dynamic because he became who he was because he was constantly feeling less than, so he was being bullied by this guy. And then he kills this guy and it sets him free, but then he realizes in the back of like in his mind, like, I kind of really like this. And then he's just like completely off the rails after that. Because he had a moment of humanity when he was talking to him. And then he realized like,
I don't need this.
I don't need
It's
this.
not serving me.
The guy slapped him like 4 times too, so he's getting pissed off. So, yeah, no, it's a fun show, and yeah, there's
You realizing those cliffhangers I was talking about, though?
Yeah.
How good they are with it.
Yeah, definitely a hard show to leave on an episode for sure. Like hard to walk away. It's better off just to leave halfway through the episode.
That's when we were watching it the first time. We're like, we know they're gonna give us a cliffhanger. Let's stop at 10 minutes before, and then we can continue it later.
No, yeah,
It's funny that you came to that conclusion.
they also do one of the things that I always disliked about media, and I mean we're marketers, so we fall into the trap of doing it too. So I can't say this without being a little bit of a hypocrite. However, it does irritate me slightly when the clip at the end that they leave you on is not at all the clip they bring you back to, right? So they shot this like cliffhanger ending of a dude getting a knife in the back, and then they bring up the next scene in the new episode, and it's like it just bounces off of him. It doesn't stab him. I heard that knife go in him on the episode before that, so I'm like, come on now.
Got you come back though, did
It did, yeah. So it worked, right? It worked.
And you're not really that mad about it.
No, I'm not.
So they walked that line real well.
Yeah. No, it's a good show, and I mean, it's an absolute extreme situation, and in extreme situations, that's when true character comes out, right? And talking about finding inner strength and finding new resilience in oneself. I have a really good mentor who has always said that in order to create any kind of change in your life, you need repetition or an extreme emotional event. And the show itself is a representation of an extreme emotional event. And so you're watching these characters change quickly and amplify strength, courage, compassion, resilience, loyalty to others. Like, it's been really cool to watch. What's been your take, though? I've been talking long enough.
We've already covered my take before. That's what got you to want to watch it.
Yeah. Well, in the light of... So let me ask you this then. Is there a specific character who has shown up in a way of inner strength that has impressed you or shown above anyone else?
Yes, but it would spoil it for you. No.
Okay.
You haven't.
Yeah.
And we did talk about the one girl's father.
Oh, he's cool.
Yeah.
I've seen him do some really elite stuff now.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
The paramedic, who we did not realize was that much of a...
Yeah, he's definitely former military. And yeah, he's unstoppable. When that guy has something on his mind, he figures it out.
Like family. Speaking of that, because it kind of linked me to the whole you'd be willing to do anything for your kids type thing.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about it.
Yeah, why not? So, I don't know. I'm not going to get the dates right, so I'm not going to even try. But here recently, there's been a video circulating on the internet of one of the people we really look up to and have been using his softwares and his teachings and everything for half a decade or more now. For me personally, got caught up in a scandal with quotation marks when he broke up a wrestling match that was his son and another kid were in a wrestling match. The opponent was illegally choking his son. Russell brought it to, called it out, brought it to the attention of the ref. The ref did not move or do anything. He was a much older gentleman, to be honest. If you look at it, the guy's very old, overweight, out of shape. So I don't think his reaction time was fast enough anyway, or he should be there. But Russell jumped in. As a father protecting his child, jumped in and kind of pulled his son and then put 2 quick punches to the back of the other kid to kind of separate it. And then hands off, walked away, walked out. Didn't want to hurt the kid, just wanted to help his son, stop the fight. And that's why we're talking about it. Like, at the end of the day, you can have your own opinions on whether or not a grown man should put his hand on a 14-year-old kid or anything like that. But what we want to touch on is, as a parent, as someone who has that protective instinct that my child needs to be safe, I would not say that I wouldn't do the same thing.
As someone who's not a parent, but I completely understand the desire to protect your own.
Yeah.
I think he did exactly what he should have. He seeked the help.
Mm-hmm.
The help was denied. And no reaction, like, it's like, shut up, go away kind of thing.
For sure. And
when he did hit the kid, you can visibly see he was not putting all his strength in. It's more like, hey,
it was like 2 side hammer fists. It was like ding, ding, real quick.
Yeah, but it's like me banging the table. Pay attention, right?
No, yeah, there was no malicious intent behind. Like, he wasn't winding up to knock this kid's head off by any means. He was trying to split them up and get the kid to come off. Same thing you would do in a situation
with a dog.
Exactly what I was about to say. If a dog was biting my kid, I would make sure that dog stops biting my kid with whatever means necessary. Now, I know that I'm not going to be punching the dog in the face if those teeth are in my kid's arm, right? Mm-hmm. I'm just going to cause way worse. So I'm going to stick my finger in that dog's butthole is what I'm going to do, and get him to fucking pucker and pull off, and then I'll deal with the dog and keep my kid safe. But at the same time, it's the same thing. Like, someone whose sole responsibility is the care and upbringing of this child, I am not going to fail at this, and I'm going to do whatever it takes to make sure he's.
And when he did hit the kid, it was visible, because this was all recorded.
Oh yeah, it's all on camera. You can go right now on YouTube and see it.
And when he hit the kid, you can visibly see Russell pulling his punches.
Oh yeah, he doesn't want to hurt the kid. He wants to save his son.
I get that, I do, and that's why I was disappointed with everyone taking advantage of the situation.
And that's ultimately what they did. The guy's worth a lot of money. He's got $1 billion plus business. And so he's someone they could go after and bleed if they wanted to. Mm-hmm. Or cancel, which is a huge thing. People get their rocks off on canceling people now. But at the end of the day, he has a huge following, us included, who know he's an amazing father, who know what he stands for. The man's devout Mormon and religious. Like, he has way more morals and ethics than I even do. And for him to get blasted for something that, in my mind, was just parental instinct, is crazy.
Yeah. Sorry, Russell, they did you dirty.
Yeah, even Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan was talking about it on his podcast, because it obviously anything to do with wrestling or fighting, they tag him, they send it to him. Mm. And so he doesn't even know who Russell is. Like, he didn't even mention you by name because he doesn't know who you are. But totally, it was the same kind of conversation you were having. Like, he did what he needed to do to help his kid. Like, there was no, it's not like he walked up and punched the kid after the match because his son lost or something. It's like, no, his son was in danger and he acted. Done.
Yep. So the show that I recently got into, that you had the whole conversation from your father-in-law?
Yeah, it was my father-in-law. He thought it was going to be, I think it's the mustache, man. When you see Ted Lasso's mustache, everyone's like, it's going to be like Anchorman. This is just going to be another Anchorman. But it's not.
The kind of humor. The humor is a bit weird at first. You got to get used to it. I'm still not so much of a fan of it, but what I can say that I truly started to appreciate, aside from the bubbly water, because that was absolutely great, is the way he teaches lessons with stories.
Yeah.
That's one of my favorite parts. And now I finally get the reference Todd was talking about with the Diamond Dogs.
Yeah.
That was good. But they also have some really good character development.
Oh, yeah.
From the aging football to Ted dealing with his anxiety and attacks, going through relationship troubles. Even the woman who got divorced and wants to blow up the team kind of thing.
Yeah.
All that has been really, really well done.
Yeah.
I'm saying things generally because I don't want to ruin it for you. So, yeah.
No, yeah.
And I just finished the episode last night of Beard's Night Out. That was interesting.
He's a really unique character.
Yes.
Very unique and I think he's meant to be like the one who pushes the boundaries of like social acceptance.
I'm always waiting to see how he takes the scene. Because he always takes it. If he's coming out in some kind of way, he's going to steal the scene.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm always waiting for. And he doesn't even need to use his voice to steal the scene.
He's a good actor.
And what I mean by that is they come in to ask him for a favor, and he's just, that was it. And then at the end of it, it was like, didn't even have to say anything.
Yeah.
Love it.
I don't know. I won't ruin the scene if you haven't seen it, but there's a scene during one of the Diamond Dogs meetings where I think it's Ted who's like, looks at Beard. He's like, you want to take this one? And he's just like, stop being a bitch. That's basically what he says to him. Have you seen that yet?
No.
Oh, it's good.
That memorable.
Well, yeah, Beard doesn't say, like, it didn't say stop being a bitch, but basically what he said was like, man up, like you're creating this problem for yourself. I forgot who it was.
Might have seen it.
But yeah, the character development and inner strength in that one is pretty cool too. Especially like speaking of Ted Lasso, the main character, and you already talked about the dude has crazy anxiety, like serious panic attacks. He has to walk out of one of the main matches in one of the episodes and gets a lot of flack for it.
Done that twice now.
Yeah. And so, but what's cool, and you mentioned it too, is like he has a lot of insight, a lot of philosophy, a lot of things that he teaches, and he shares like stories and parables and different things. Like, I love the goldfish. Be a goldfish. I mean, has he told them that yet?
Yep.
About mistakes and about like failures? Just be a goldfish.
He's like, pay attention. We're going to live in this loss for the moment, but when we're done reviewing and everything, just be the goldfish.
Yeah. I love that philosophy.
I think that was the season 1 finale.
Maybe. It's all blended. I've watched all 3 now, so it kind of blends together.
I'm getting towards the end of season 2.
There's only 3 seasons, unfortunately. I wish they did more.
I'm sure they will.
No.
No?
You'll see. They closed the series in the finale. You'll see. So they could bring them back, but they set them up to go away.
So they left. So they did what they should have did for Firefly.
Okay. That's a good show.
So Serenity. Did you ever watch the movie?
Yes.
That went after that?
Yep.
Do you know what he said at the end of that movie after it became a big hit? Like, if I knew I wasn't just creating something to close the door on this, I wouldn't have killed all the characters because it got such a huge following again, because it didn't get its following until after it was already out and canceled.
Yeah.
That's when Firefly got its following, because it came out right around the time of 9/11. People weren't really focused on that kind of thing at that time. It was unfortunate timing.
Yeah.
I found out about it years later after it was already canceled, and I thought it was the greatest thing ever. And then Serenity, and it was like, I didn't even know about Firefly until after I watched Serenity.
I think that we live in a world now where everything is streaming and at your fingertips, and it's great. But like when Firefly came out, you had to go to the Sci-Fi channel to watch it. So it was like, how many people actually watched the Sci-Fi channel back then? People like you and me, right, who were looking for it.
Yeah.
But the average
Lived on the Sci-Fi channel.
That's how we know all of these things, right? Like, yeah. There's a lot of like Lost Girls. And it's like, you bring that up. It's like, how many people have watched that series? Me and you both have watched it, right? Like, it's because we were
Stargate's
sci-fi
awesome.
nerds. And
Lost
so,
Girl. I said Stargate because I want Stargate.
that's another one. But it's now that like you can go on Netflix and you can be just scrolling through and it's going to be there. So it's in your face. It's on your mind now. But before, you had to do some serious searching to even know it existed. So I think that, yeah, wrong time. Just a wrong time. And then when the movie came out, we were starting to move more. It was more easily accessible, right? It's a movie, and so now it gets some more fame.
That was done by Joss Whedon, right?
I don't remember, but I do think it's the accessibility that gave it, because it was a lot of that sci-fi stuff back in the day, Starship Troopers. Shoot, I'm like drawing blanks now because we're going.
Yeah, that's Joss Whedon.
That's good stuff.
I absolutely love everything he does.
There's some names that stick around for a reason, right?
Yeah. Like Cabin in the Woods, the
Right.
comedy horror, but it's a whole new twist. It was I love how dark it got. I love how they betted on them.
Yeah.
It was so well done.
Yeah, so I got the DVD for that from one of my cousins, who's also a huge like nerd into this stuff like we are. Mm-hmm. And she was just like, I got you this movie for your birthday. She's like, you probably never heard of it, but sit down, watch it. You're going to love it. I'm like, cool. So I sat down and watched it. The mistake I made, though, is I was incredibly high the very first time I watched that. Mm-hmm. And so I didn't grasp what was really going on. I was like too baked out of my mind to really know. So I went back again sober and watched it. And I was like, oh shit, this is a really good movie. Like, this is awesome the way they do this. Really interesting take.
And we brought up Dollhouse the other day, too. That's Joss Whedon as well.
Yeah.
Dude's got a brilliant mind for creating drama, suspense, and the character arcs.
Yeah. In a sci-fi world, which we love.
Yes, absolutely. Surprised it's still recording.
We got about 2 more minutes before, so we should probably wrap it. Okay. Yeah, Joss Whedon, phenomenal. There's many, many things that I've watched over the years that he's been a part of. So you as well, clearly.
Yes. Let's see what else he's done.
What do you think someone could do without putting themselves in an extreme situation to start to harness inner strength?
Harness inner strength?
Without putting themselves in a extreme emotional state.
Isn't that the whole idea behind experiential type stuff?
Like I mentioned earlier, like I've always been taught that there's only 2 ways, right? And that's repetition or an extreme emotional situation. And so if someone was not exactly ready to put themselves in a situation like that, what's something they could do that would allow them to build up that courage, build up that inner strength, get close enough to it?
Start to identify what they wanted and figure out some uncomfortable situations that they can put themselves in, because that's still going to create that state, but it's going to be more of a controlled environment.
Yeah.
And we usually realize that it's not as bad as we thought it was going to be.
I love that. It reminds me, there was a professor, or no, it was a TED Talk. I don't remember if he was a professor, but it's a pretty famous TED Talk. You can look it up on YouTube, where the guy, basically for 30 days, he went for 100 no's. Do you know what I'm talking about? That study?
So I've heard people do that before. I've seen a documentary on it, but I'm not sure if it's the same person we're talking about.
It might be. I'm forgetting all the details to it now. However, the gist of it is this. The gentleman had a fear of social interaction, right? A fear of like conversing with others, looking like a fool, not saying the right thing. A lot of the same fears that many people have, right? And so what he did was he realized that everything he wanted was on the other side of actually being able to communicate, actually being able to get past this level of fear. And so he reverse engineered it, much like we do when we help people build courses or take their wisdom online. And he reverse engineered it. And he was like, okay, these are the little steps I need to do in order to get there. And the little steps were starting with going out every single day and asking a beautiful woman if she would go to coffee with him. Complete stranger. And he would go every day to the bottom of this escalator in this mall or wherever he was, and a beautiful woman would come down and he would walk up to her and ask her. And the whole idea was to be okay with someone telling you, be okay with being completely rejected. And so did it and did it and did it and did it. And I forget the exact number, but eventually someone said yes. And he went and had coffee, and he just kept doing it. And he built up this level of confidence where he realized that, like, much like you said, the no was never as uncomfortable as he thought it was going to be. The making the mistake in the conversation was never, he wasn't going to die because of it, right? Like, he was always able to move past it.
It feels like in the moment, though, sometimes.
And that moment may feel like an eternity, right? Because it's heightened emotional state, so you're there. However, now he goes on stages in front of hundreds of thousands of people, has millions of views, teaches this philosophy to others, but it didn't start there. It started with the guy who was too scared to even talk to somebody. So I thought that was like really powerful. And just by asking you, well, like, you know, what would you do? Like, you came up with the exact same solution that others are actively practicing right now to get it. That's pretty cool.
For me, I went through that with my door-to-door stuff.
Oh, yeah.
I never wanted to really go and knock on people's doors. The first week, I literally got dropped off in the neighborhood for the houses I was supposed to knock. I intentionally knocked on the doors where I knew no one was home. That's where I started with that.
Building up the courage.
And if I saw that people were out there, nope, hi, and just kept walking. Even though it was literally my job to go up and talk to them. I mentioned that I feel like I was kind of tricked into it, whether through some kind of innocent mistake or it was intentional. I'm still not sure to this day. I was supposed to be put in front of the installer stuff, and I got put in front of the sales rep, and I was like, fuck it.
Yeah.
I got nothing else.
Yeah.
But it was one of the best things that I've ever done.
Why?
Because it allowed me to see that I didn't have to live in that place that I was so comfortable in. But
go ahead.
But that would also mean that that's where I was stuck. And so through that lesson, I didn't realize it at the time. I didn't realize it till years later how grateful I was for it. Kind of like a lot of the lessons my dad taught me, right? Yeah. And I'm sure your kids are probably going to go through the same thing. They're not truly going to appreciate all the wisdom and lessons that you've taught them until they're probably in their mid-20s, late 20s, or maybe even the early 30s.
Yeah.
I think that that's just the nature of the beast when it comes to that.
Based on my own life, I would agree. Because there's been some things where I didn't see the wisdom in it. I mean, I've been told it for, 30 years of my life, and then didn't see the wisdom for, 30 years, right? So, especially when it comes to parents and maybe people like we maybe have clashed with in the past and resisted their input. It's cool that you bring up door to door and knocking and really like sharing openly what you went through, because it reminds me of what I went through, right? Like, when you met me, I already had figured some things out with Todd and allowed myself to kind of unlock some cool things back and rediscover them. But before Todd, before you met me, before all that, there was Chris, who had just had a kid, who didn't want that kid to feel bad for him because he was collecting disability and got hurt overseas, and wanted to be able to show him that there was more in life, and started an auto glass business with no experience, no know-how, and a lot of freaking anxiety. And I remember there would be times where I have to pick up a phone to order glass or call a vendor or call a customer, and my heart, you could see it beating through my shirt. I am sweating, I am drenched, my anxiety is through the roof. But every time I would pick up, and trust me, the first couple times I picked up the phone, I didn't even say anything, I just hung back up. Or like, it was just scary, right? And I'm just being completely honest. And then there were times where I would talk and I would stutter over my words, and they'd be like, I'm sorry, can you repeat that? But the thing is, I just kept doing it. And I knew that if it was meant to be, it had to be me, because I was the only person in that position to do that job. I had said I would do that job, and I'm a man of my word. And so regardless of the fear, regardless of what I was going through, I pushed myself. And it sucked in the moment. But now, I'm way better for it. Now, I don't have a hesitation to get on a phone. Now I don't have a hesitation to get on camera. Now I'm okay with not being perfect. I talk, like even on this podcast, you probably have heard me stutter over my words, mispronounce something, slur, all these different things. And it's just part of who I am, and I'm okay with that now. But back in the day, I had so much fear. And really it was fear of other people's opinions of my perceived to be my limitations and inadequacies. Crazy.
And to think I went from not wanting to be on camera at all to teaching about almost 200 students a week.
Yeah, you spend more time on camera than I do. Which is cool because, you know, I want to say something that I'm like really proud of. For you, not of me, but proud of you. The other day we were chatting, I think it was just yesterday, honestly, you know, me and timelines though. And it was that moment where I was like, oh shit, the student has become the master. This is really cool. Because you are at a point now where you have taught and been in the trenches so long that you know as much, if not more, about marketing than I do. And I was like, this is really fucking cool. So proud of you, dude, because you've been dedicated to this thing for years now, and it shows with your students' results, it shows your ability to communicate, it shows in your confidence, it shows across the board. It's cool.
Yeah, I think you mentioned that with Todd.
Yeah, and well, that's a little bit different. Because even when we're comfortable talking to people we're working with or instructing, there's a whole other level with someone who's like a mentor or whose opinion you take really deeply into your heart, right? Mm-hmm. And so when someone like that were to say something like, that sucked or that was inadequate, which Todd would never say, it hurts a lot more than if
some random person.
Right.
Yeah.
And so when you started getting more comfortable and confident, even in a situation where you weren't teaching and it was a mentor or someone else around, that too was like, yeah, I already told you that though when it happened. I was like, damn, dude, that was really cool to see. Like,
yeah. Did you mention that to him? Because he seemed to just go with that flow yesterday.
No, I think he's just picking up that like, I have a lot of knowledge, but I'm very scattered. Like the way my brain works, it's very hard for me to like do some things. You're not like that. You are like structured and focused and on point. Like I will shoot off and you got to bring me back.
Well, I can go off on my tangents too.
You can, but you're much more structured. And I think Todd caught up on that. And so he was like, well, that and...
Did you see that?
Yeah, the lights flickered.
They changed from warm...
Is Ginger laying on the remote?
I don't know.
Her remote.
In the bedroom? Yeah.
We figured out that the remote that controls our studio lights, so does the TV remote for Liam's TV. So when he changes the channel, it changes the light. That's pretty funny.
It's funny because I went into the bedroom last night after not being in there literally all day long. I think the last time I was in there before I went to bed was early in the morning when I got ready for my meetings and calls and stuff. But when I went in there last night, the TV was on. And so I have no idea how it came on or anything like that, whether maybe this remote got hit, who knows. But it wasn't in a position where someone could lay on it because it's always on my nightstand, you know? So I don't know. Still trying to figure that one out.
Good catch though, man.
Real good.
Good catch. Yeah, so it doesn't have to be an emotionally, like that's the thing I want to really just drive home towards the end of this episode, is the quickest and most steadfast way that I know of to bring out inner strength, create real change in your life is an emotional situation, right? Getting your emotions heightened, getting out, getting your blood going, these will absolutely help. But then again, there's also repetition and just living in that fear for a bit, like you did, like I did. And just pushing ourselves through it. Because at the end of the day, it's not going to kill you. Fear will not kill you. And so if you can push past it, there's a phrase that I used to have hanging in the office, feel the fear, do it anyway. Because it's a real thing. Like everyone has it. So just feel it, accept it, and do it. Go for it.
Shameless plug. wouldn't it be nice to have a place you can go where someone can help design challenges like this for you? With that said, let's close this out. I do need to repeat the riddle from this call. All right. I am not seen, but often heard. I can be a single word. I come from within, not from books on the shelf. What am I? Do you have a guess?
Yes. I'll let you know after we get off camera. That way I can see them right. But, guys, that's a wrap for episode 3. Appreciate you guys showing up. Hopefully you found some value and inspiration in finding inner strength. There are many different ways to do it, but it could be as simple as just pushing yourself through the very next step and living in that fear and showing yourself that it's not going to kill you. And then drop your answers to the riddles down in the comments. We'll check them and we'll see you guys. Well, that's it for me. I'll let Liam close us out.
That's it for me. I'll let Chris close us out.
Till next time, guys. Peace. That could be. Although.